Welcome back to the To Be Fit podcast. I'm your host, Brian Bott. If you are into all things fitness, health, and nutrition related, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Today, we're talking to Chef James Avery, whose impressive culinary journey has taken him from his own restaurants in Asbury Park to working alongside Gordon Ramsay on Hell's Kitchen. James, thanks for joining us, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
So, listen, I first came across your content because I think, I was recommended to some of your restaurants in the area, went down, had some amazing clams. They were great. And then I noticed you were getting into kind of some fitness and nutrition content. Yeah. So I thought it'd be good to talk. So, give us a little backstory now. Like, I know things have changed for you recently, but, how'd you get to where you are now?
Wow. Well, we got to take it all the way back 20 years. No, I mean, I've always had an entrepreneurial itch as far as the culinary thing goes. In high school, started delivering pizzas, went to college, worked in restaurants, bar backing, bartending, serving, started cooking, in my early 20s, kind of just bounced around in restaurants. And I just fell in love with it. I was a terrible student. So I got into culinary and in restaurants really just by way of I wanted to be an entrepreneur and own businesses. And I just always gravitated towards the food and beverage sector. That was just fun to me. It's a really creative outlet. When you start, you're coming up with dishes and you're learning all these new skills. And then as you progress in your journey or your career, you're finding creative ways to, bring new concepts and how to, branding and design and things like that. Amazingly enough, though, I've always had an interest in fitness. Even in my younger years, I was always into health and fitness. And when I was a younger chef, you didn't see that a lot. There was a lot of partying going on, a lot of being unhealthy, and a lot of incestuous, people sleeping with each other in the business. And I was fortunate enough to meet my wife, who's the mother of my 4 children, in culinary school. So she always kind of kept me grounded, and my family kept me grounded. And I look at fitness as part of that as well. I want to be healthy and in shape. And this is, I think, anything in life, you're going to be better at it if you're healthy, if you have your health and all that. So I started putting that at the forefront. So, I always say my 3 pillars in life are fitness, family, and health, my fitness, family, and food. Yeah.
And you've done some physique competitions, right? Are you getting back into that more? Are you going to do more of them? Or what's that?
Like a bucket list thing. I've always been into working out. I've done Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I've done, Muay Thai. I've always been into weightlifting, all that. Last year, a couple friends of mine, women actually, they did some bikini contests. And I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to know just how fucking good a shape I can get in and what that would look like. Mm-hmm. So last year, I hired Rich Tuma. I hired a coach. That's who he is. And just learning that aspect of the science behind your diet. And it's really overwhelming. It's borderline almost unsustainable to really do that bodybuilding, but I wanted to try it. I wanted to test myself, but it's funny. I was doing it for I had an 8-month plan, started in October. And then somewhere around a year ago from now, it was last February, I found out I'll be going back to do Hell's Kitchen. So I actually didn't get on stage, but I got damn near to it. I was in the best shape of my life at 43 years old. And I was pretty proud of myself for doing that. But now I'm going to try to do it again this year. So
what was that? Where was you kind of start and finish at? What weight did you start at when you said hey, I'm going to do this? Yeah. And then how lean did you get down to after that?
Well, it was I was in pretty decent shape when I started, to rewind back 5 years ago, COVID was a big stressor for everybody. That was a really hard time for me. And I
gyms and restaurants were not great.
Just
not great for COVID.
I lived a very unhealthy lifestyle probably during COVID, as we all did. A lot of it was you're just sitting around anxious. You're eating foods you normally wouldn't eat. You're eating out of boredom. You're drinking out of boredom. You're overindulging. And you're not working out, the way you probably should have been. At least that was the case for me and probably many others. But and then I opened another restaurant. I opened the Black Swan during the pandemic. Very stressful. My father passed away about 3 months after opening the Black Swan. And I just went down this really unhealthy tailspin. Not anything too crazy, but I definitely wasn't the best version of myself. I put on probably 20, 30 pounds. I was at 230. And one day I just looked in the mirror and I was I don't even recognize this fucking person. I was just bloated and bags under my eyes. And I was this was February of 22. So I joined a men's kind of group, Superhuman Fathers. And just to get just hearing positivity from other men that are go-getters and just we all kind of pumped each other up. Kyle, the founder of it, got me on the right track. And then I ended up working with Mike Dolce shortly after that, really got my diet dialed in, got all the fat off, was, lean, looking good. Learned a lot about diet, a lot about supplementation. And I kind of maintained that. So I was in pretty decent shape when I decided I wanted to do the physique thing. It was really a matter of like really building the body, like building the muscle, making sure you're keeping the fat off while you get bigger. And then, all the things that you would know that would have to go into like an actual bodybuilding versus just general health and wellness.
Yeah, I remember. So when I was competing in powerlifting, I decided I was going to do a bodybuilding show. And I remember in my mind, I was like, I probably have to lose like 10 or 15 pounds.
Yeah.
And like my weight class for powerlifting was like 198. I dieted down to 181 for another powerlifting contest. And then like by the time I weighed in for the bodybuilding show, it was like 158 pounds.
Yeah.
Remember, it was like so humbling. I'm like, I'm not big at all. Yeah. But it's an all encompassing thing. Now, like for someone who obviously food is in one of those pillars of your life, like, how was that? Did that make it harder or easier for you, do you think, in terms of like, because listen, the bottom line is there's a difference between I'm going to live a healthy lifestyle and I'm going to get on stage.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
like there's not like, that's not the same thing. You have a lot more leeway.
Yeah. You're weighing your food. You're like, I can have, 180 grams of egg whites right now. And it was kind of fun though, because you didn't have to think about it. Like once you programmed it was like, just go. Listen, I've been a chef working in restaurants since I was 16. I'm 44 now. I know what everything tastes like. I know what everything, it's not like, food is a very important part of my life. I have a unique relationship with food. Food is as much of a creative outlet, like paint to a painter. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel the need to always eat. A matter of fact, most of the time I spend an entire, day in a kitchen, 12 hours a day, feeding hundreds and hundreds of people, processing all kinds of food and butchering. And I get home and I'm like, I just want a fucking bowl of cereal. Like, you know what I mean? Like I don't really have this crazy appetite you'd think. Now, when I go out with my wife, it's like, yeah, let's get like the nice fucking bottle of wine. Let's like, split some apps and we get after it. But all in all, like, it was almost easier being around food because when you're around food in a professional setting, you're just not thinking about eating it. It's like Thanksgiving dinner, right? Like you see mom making Thanksgiving dinner for everybody all day. She barely even eats. She picks, you know what I mean? So it's like the same kind of thing. Made it easier. And having access. Like I'd be in the kitchen. Hey guys, the grill guy, can you throw 2 chicken breasts on for me? Grab a handful of lettuce and whatever, tablespoon of peanut butter, and I got my macros done. So it made it easier.
I think that's good for, our audience to hear as well, is that like, hey, despite all of your obviously skills in the kitchen, it was 2 chicken breasts and a tablespoon of peanut butter.
Yeah,
like it wasn't that fancy.
Yeah. It gets down to function, like it's like, it's definitely, it's a functional way of eating at that point in time.
And it does make it simpler because it's the whole discipline equals freedom thing, right? If you have all these constraints, it really kind of makes it easier because it's like, well, I can choose this or that. I don't have 100 different options to kind of go from.
I kind of like that anyway. I'm like such a meat and potatoes guy.
I think I've talked to a couple other chefs just like in the area, and that seems to be like, that was the most surprising thing to me is they all kind of say the same thing. It's like, by the time I get home, like I'll have like a plain bowl of pasta or something. And I'm like, really? Like in my mind, there'd be like this elaborate kind of setup.
We go off on tangent. I mean, at least I do. People are coming over. I'll geek out over stuff. I'll break out my pantry and start grabbing all my obscure like collection of spices and 25-year-old balsamic vinegar to like gild the lily with some stuff. But for the most part, it's just really simple everyday stuff.
Yeah, I think that's the message I would like to drive home to our clients or anybody's listening is that like if you think that every meal is going to be like this Pinterest ready experience, like you're going to fail. I don't care who you are. Like at some point you need to get used to like, what's my protein? What's some sort of carb, a little bit of healthy fat, and then move on.
Yeah. So like, I mean, that's it. And I think people have this really, everybody rushes through food prep. Like when I make my grilled chicken for the week, it's moist, it's juicy, it smells great. I marinate it in fat-free Greek yogurt. The good bacteria in the yogurt helps break down and tenderize the chicken. It moisturizes it. And you can add flavor. Like I love curry. Curry makes everything taste better if you ask me. You might not like curry. Maybe you like blackening spice. But whatever flavors you like, you can make your food prep stuff taste good. You can add, if you're trying to hit your macros, a little bit of nice olive oil or a tablespoon of grass-fed butter to your rice. As long as it fits your macros, right? Like that's kind of the MO. And One thing I got from Mike Dolce that was really helpful was, you eat, the average person eats, if you're training, there's a lot of schools of thought on diet. There's, one meal a day. There's these guys that fast for 3 days at a time. Then they eat a giant fucking ribeye. Then there's also the macros, 7 meals a day people. Now, let's just say for all intents and purposes, the average person who's really trying to get their health dialed in is probably going to be on a macro-driven diet, eating multiple meals throughout the day. So let's say you eat 42 meals a week. That's the average probably person. 2 of those things could be whatever you want them to be. And if you know that, it makes eating the other 40 a lot easier, and you enjoy those 2 meals a lot more. We call them earned meals, so you earn your cheeseburger, you earn that pizza. So,
it all, I just repeat the same saying over and over. It's the discipline equals freedom. If you can have the discipline to do these other things, you can have the freedom to enjoy those other things after that.
Totally.
So one thing that you touched on that I want to get some more detail on is like, I think most people struggle with their nutrition because they suck at cooking.
Yeah.
So what are now I don't expect it to be like this detailed, like, hey, how you're making things in restaurants, but what are some of the basic skills that people need to learn how to do to not make the foods that they're trying to, incorporate, like you're talking about, hey, marinate the chicken in Greek yogurt. What are like some basic skills that people need in the kitchen to kind of be a little bit more successful?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think using a frying pan, like sauteing chicken or grilling chicken. A lot of people, when let's be honest, like grilled chicken is just a huge part of eating healthy. Like at least in our setting, again, health is subjective. There's a lot of theories about health, but people, they grill chicken, they cook it to death. It's so dry. You have to reheat it because you're prepping in bulk. And it's so dry and just so hard to get down. So marinating is important. Learning how to either make everything uniform thickness, whether you're pounding your chicken or tenderizing it or butterflying it. And this goes for all proteins really. Just don't overcook everything. So it's not this dry, flavorless kind of inedible stuff. So I think understanding how to marinate, understanding how to, you can eat the same, I had this idea for not a podcast, like a YouTube series called Chicken and Rice. Chicken and rice is, you can have grilled chicken and white rice, but you can have Chinese style, like Singapore, where they do like poached chicken, they have like lemongrass and ginger, and then they cook the rice in the broth. They boil the chicken. So you could have chicken and rice 100 different ways if you look at globally. So just learning how to use global flavors keeps it exciting. It keeps you engaged. I think time management is a big part of prep, right? So learning how to, I don't make all my meals individually. I like just having 2 quarts of rice in the fridge. I like having Ziploc bags of chicken breasts in the fridge. I like having hard-boiled eggs boiled, ground meat, sauteed off, because I can turn that ground meat, I can fold it into rice. I can bake a potato and put some cheese on top with the meat inside of it, eat it like a loaded potato bomb. I think just don't think of food prep as making individual meals. Think of it like, okay, what is the backbone, the core? And again, not everybody's doing macros. So just as long as you have healthy options in there, having all that stuff, in there, in your fridge, ready to pull. Have a sheet tray of roasted veggies, done, boom, in a Tupperware in the fridge. Get home, chicken breast, baked potato, boom, pop in the microwave or oven if that's what you're into. So really just cooking in bulk. Learning how to marinate, again, that's a really important one because dried flavorless food is just hard to get down.
So I know you mentioned the Greek yogurt, but what are a couple other ideas for people that are looking for something just for even just chicken? Because that tends to be what most people are.
I mean, it's just, there's no way around it. I get it. Using things like coconut aminos, soy sauce, things that have umami, sun-dried tomato, chopping that up, that has a lot of flavor. Parmesan cheese actually really gets low in fat, so it's actually really good for you. It has other nutrients in there that help. So adding things that have a lot of, again, umami, a lot of flavor to it. So soy sauces, fermented things. You could use a little bit of miso. That's another really good one. Some people don't like soy, but if it's organic, it's non-GMO. It's actually not as bad for you as the whole soy idea is today. But yeah, they really, I always tell people, look at global flavors. I love tandoori. I love curry, using fish sauce, things like that. Yeah.
So the most important principle that I want people to take away is that, there's principles and methods, right? The principle is I need this chicken, some rice, and then the methods can be infinite, right? If you have 3 different marinades and then 3 different spice things, you have 9 now different profiles you can play around with
100%.
to try and keep it, do one week, do one the next. 100%. And like, don't feel like if you don't like it, like don't do it that way, right? Like
100%.
Just stick to the principles and figure out ways that you can make it kind of creative from there.
And if there's something in it that you love, like I love at the end of my day, since I was 10 years old, a glass of milk and a peanut butter sandwich. So now it's like I do a glass of raw milk and I have really good sprouted bread with an organic almond butter. It's like my cherry on my Sunday. And I make sure that like I'm following my guidelines all day. So at the end of the day, I can have that. I feel satiated and it's like my little treat. So yeah, principles and guidelines. And then like, leaving room to enjoy life still.
Yeah. And then what about, so one question I know because we put it in our kind of our nutrition guidelines that we give out to people, we always recommend some sort of fish. And I know the kickback that I always get is like, I can never make it right. Yeah. Right. Like don't need a 30-minute breakdown of all your secrets to cooking fish, but like anything simple that people can kind of take home and be like, hey, like that made a big difference.
I literally just cooked a tray of fish for my family the other day. So if you're not a huge fish person, white flaky fish is your friend. If you don't love fish, you're not going to like sea bass or bronzino or salmon even. Like, salmon's an aggressive flavored fish. White flaky fish. The most cost effective is like haddock or cod. And the way I do that is simple. I put it in a casserole. I load it with some olive oil. I sprinkle some white wine on top. If your macros allow for it, a little bit of butter or a little bit of olive oil, it just kind of, whatever, and sprinkle it with you can do dried parsley, just some herbs and some spices, really simple. 350 in the oven till the fish pulls apart. It's great.
Perfect.
You can you do the same thing, put that same fish, put it on parchment paper and then in tin foil, some olive oil, some lemon juice, a little bit of wine, a little bit of fat, herbs, put it on the grill, 20 minutes, done.
Perfect.
It's great.
Yep.
I love it.
So moving on from some of the actual food, another thing that we get questioned about is actually equipment in the kitchen. Yeah. Right? Like you have some people that won't let go of their nonstick pans. Yeah. I know you might have relationships with certain companies or whatever. Yeah. It's totally aside from that. But what's true, what's not true? What should people be kind of looking for when they're looking like, hey, I'm going to make this investment? Because I think another problem is they decide I'm going to get healthy and I'm going to start cooking. And then I'm like, do you even have like a pan? And they're like, no. I'm like, all right, well, we might have to start there. Yeah. Like, so, what are some recommendations in terms of like cookware that can, keep them safe, obviously, and then obviously make what they're doing a little bit easier? Yeah. I mean, so aside from just like overall macro nutritional health, I'm very big on like not cooking on Teflon and trying to minimize your exposure to plastics. And, I'm definitely down that rabbit hole as well. So like Teflon, crappy pans are not your friend, and I don't really use nonstick. I use cast iron a lot. I've cooked in Le Creuset for years. I've recently been turned on to Smithy's and Austin Foundry, which are just two really high quality, well-made, small family-owned, operated like producers of pans. And then obviously with the Gordon Ramsay connection, I have a whole set of Hexclads, which I love. I have them as well. I use my main pan that I use is a Hexclad, and then the other cast iron that you posted recently, Smithy, my wife got me for Christmas. Oh, good. I opened that thing; it came with like chainmail. If you want to clean it, it has you want to scrub it. You can use a sleeve of chainmail. Yeah, cast iron's really the best thing. They're so versatile because you can roast in them, you can bake in them, you can make a stew in them, you can throw them in the oven, you can serve them, you can pop them on the grill. They're just really just good. And after a while, they get that seasoning on them and then they turn into a nonstick pan. So you don't need these crappy $30 pans from, a big box store. So, but if you have to have one pan, you need probably a 4-quart sauce pot, like a pot that you can boil rice in, boil potatoes in, boil your veggies, whatever that is. I like a 10-inch saute pan or cast iron. You could, dual usage. A skillet is really good. Having like a griddle almost. Like I have a Hexclad skillet, so I can put 10 pieces of chicken on that thing. If I don't want to go out, like right now it's cold outside, I don't want to be outside grilling. It takes forever to grill. The grill never holds the right heat. Put my skillet on. I can put 4 pounds of ground beef on that thing. It'll brown up nicely. I can put chicken on it. I can put fish on it. So a griddle is a nice to have, not a have to have, but it's a nice to have, especially if you want to cook in bulk.
like saute a bunch of beef off, whatever. As far as like kitchen gadgets go, I definitely recommend like a Ninja Bullet, like a quick little blender. Back in the day, you had to get a VitaPrep, which is, they were $1,000. Now Ninja has literally a residential one. It's just as good. You can make small sauces. You can make your marinades in there. You can make your smoothies in there. You can pre-make your smoothie, put it in the fridge. Like they're just like my wife and I use the hell out of ours. So, so what do we got? We got the sauce pot to boil things in. We have the saute pan. I probably cook 75% of the things I eat in my Hexclad wok. My breakfast, my go-to breakfast is 4 eggs, 2 cups of rice, a cup of sauerkraut. It's big. And when I'm bulking and I need carbs and protein, it's my pre-workout. And then I do, so I'll start the pan, a little bit of oil, coconut oil, whatever. Put the rice in there. It's basically breakfast fried rice. So I'll put the rice, cook the rice, push it to the side, add the eggs. It could be egg whites if you're minimizing fat. But add your eggs, add that, a little bit of coconut aminos. It tastes just like fried rice. And then you add some sauerkraut for bulk and for gut health and all that. That's like my go-to breakfast. And I'll use that same pan to saute chicken and broccoli at night in. I can blanch asparagus in it, something like that. So a wok is another really good piece of equipment. Then you have your Ninja blender and then maybe a food processor, but it's not really necessary.
All right, cool. Well, I mean, listen, it's super helpful because like I said, I think most people, they're just not prepared for what they're about
to do. A good
knife.
Knife. You need a good knife. I always, because I would just think that goes without saying, but you need a fucking good knife. You can't spend $100, get a good knife.
All right. But, so you've been filming more content now. So I've been seeing you put out more, tutorials, through YouTube. So what's the goal there? Are you shifting into more remote content or?
Yeah. I've been running restaurants either for myself or other people for the greater part of 2 decades. And, just the world is shifting, look at even where we are right now. It's like, we live in an information age and, to be, not that my goal is to be a celebrity chef, but, chefs of note used to have all these restaurants. Now chefs of note are 26-year-old kids that are cooking really cool viral recipes. So it was just more intriguing to me. I genuinely love cooking and sharing my knowledge with people. I mean, I get as much satisfaction teaching a young cook how to cook something in my kitchens as I do winning an accolade or an award. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I'm not saying that because it sounds good. I genuinely love showing people, learning things, teaching things, because you learn more as you teach people. So, having that platform now to cook and on YouTube, it's compelling to me. I've been putting off writing a cookbook for forever. I'm writing one now. It's called Really Fucking Good Recipes. Nice. That's the name of the book. So the YouTube series right now is all the recipes that are going to be in the book, more or less, probably some things here and there. It's kind of my MO. I don't reinvent the wheel. I mean, some of my things are super creative, but for the most part, I make things that everyday people eat. I just try to really source the ingredients well and really handle each ingredient to the best it can be handled. And that's what makes it really fucking good. Not like I'm doing, there's no bells and whistles. There's no magic. It's just passion, love, care, intention with the cooking. That's what I'm doing. And again, it's exciting because the world has changed. I've recently just exited out of my restaurants. I'm probably going to come back on and do some consulting. As you know, I'm on the TV show. I'll probably be doing some more of that. Hopefully, if it gets picked up again. We have 2 seasons in the bag right now that are, one's airing. There's another one coming out next year. And it's just a way for me to cast a broader, net. I want to be able to do more in that space, sell cookbooks. You can monetize now with YouTube channels. And it's like the restaurants are so capital and time intensive. Not that, YouTube is like easy work. Like it's like I have to spend 2 days to cook a 15-minute video, getting it all set up and blah, 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 blah. But it's definitely a vertical that I want to explore. 13 years ago, I started doing it and I just got intimidated. Like all these cameras, all this shit just intimidated me. I'm like, you know what? Not comfortable, not doing it. But it's funny. I was with, obviously Gordon Ramsay this summer, and he was pretty funny. And I was like, I wanted some business advice because my businesses were, 2024 was a tough year. It was a tough year for everybody. I don't care who you are, what business you're in. It was a fucking tough year. People, were really put to the grindstone, and I remember just being like, I need some like advice on like, how do I manage this investor, or do I double down? What do you do? What do you do in today's side? Of course, I go to the greatest chef in the world and ask him his opinion. He goes, James, take your shirt off and start cooking on TikTok. I was like, wait, what? I was like, really? And he was laughing. He was like, yeah. He's like, but it's like, you look at it now, the power of social media is everywhere. You look at guys like Josh Weissman, Salt Hank, all these guys, and I'm like, damn, they figured something out that I didn't. So I'm compelled to try it. It's exciting. It's fun. I get to cook the food I want to cook with in my kitchen. So if I can make money sharing with the world my favorite recipes, like, and support my family more than anything, like, then I'm a happy man.
Yeah, I mean, because I love it. I mean, I certainly don't, my background's all fitness, nutrition, and training, not in cooking. And I remember I learned a ton from like Frank Prizenzano. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He has a couple restaurants in the city, Little Frankie's.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And he would put stuff on his YouTube, and it'd be like, a 100 video Instagram story of like how to make bolaise. Yeah. And like I'd be sitting there in the kitchen trying to follow along. So like it's super helpful.
No, it's and I'll get more into that. Like I was talking about some healthy cooking tips, and most of my food is quote unquote healthy. I don't really cook unhealthy food per se, but yeah, I want to dive into that. Like, show people like how to make healthier food, take like really fucking good, like food prep, like really fucking good grilled chicken, like just really little things like that.
So are there any of those things that come to mind now? Like if like, hey, for people at home, like if they come to a recipe and they need like some simple swaps, like when they see this, like, hey, you could substitute that and it'd be a much better option for you, that kind of thing.
I mean, I guess I don't know if I really fully understand your question, but, you mean in terms of like getting...
So for example, most recipes that you look at, if it has some sort of sauce, it's like, oh, like use heavy cream.
Got it.
It's like, well...
Yeah, coconut milk.
Yeah, it's like, no shit, that tastes good. It's heavy cream, yeah.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, depending on what your coach or your fitness goals are, I mean, you can't, recipes calling for fucking a pound of butter.
Right.
You're not eating butter if you want to, it's like, but there's some things like I said, I think coconut aminos might be a slightly healthier option than some, GMO soy sauce. Like I say things like that. There's some things you can swap low fat out for. Coconut milk is always good if you want to get rid of dairy. And I don't mean like just in terms of like replacing fat, but if, there's something going on, you want to omit dairy from your diet for a while. But yeah, I mean, there's really, cooking is so wide open. People get so intimidated by it. It's really not that complicated, And I that's probably my biggest advice. Like, yeah, if you're cooking a recipe and it calls for this, skip it. Fuck it.
Yeah.
You're not selling it to the general public. You're the one who's going to eat it. And if it sucks, then don't cook it again.
Yeah, I think that's like we talked about earlier, but I think that's the biggest struggle that people have is like making stuff taste good.
Yeah.
Because people will come in and be like, I just can't eat any more chicken. I'm like, well, tell me like, how are you making it? It's like, I'm just putting it on a tray and throwing it in the oven with some salt and pepper. I'm like, yeah, that's steaming it. That's not gonna
exactly. I got a buddy who does that. But hey, man, some guys are animals. Like this one guy I follow, he's down in Boca Raton, and he still can't taste or smell from Kobe. He's like, I'm a fucking animal. He's like, I just eat whatever my macros are. I just put them in a bowl and eat them. Like he doesn't even he doesn't care. The guy's a total 350-pound animal. But if you bake, you got to think about it. If you put chicken in an oven, right, a lot of chicken, it's just going to sit there and steam. You're not going to get any caramelization on it. That's why I like pan roasting or grilling, getting a marinade on it, because the marinade will give it a crust. It'll give it texture. Like, texture is a big thing. Mm-hmm. If you're lacking a lot of components on a dish, having the right texture is, people don't realize how important texture is in eating. That's why I like adding sauerkraut to my egg whites. Like if I just eat a plate of egg whites, I literally I was gagging the other day eating my egg whites. I was like, oh God, why is this so hard today? But you put some chili crisp on it, you a little bit of sauerkraut or kimchi. Now you got some crunch and some like zing to it. Okay. And like, listen, like you can pretty much eat any pickled food you want when you're in prep because it's such low calorie. And if anything, it's beneficial to you because it helps with your gut digestion and gut health. And all that.
That's what I was going to ask. I was like, did you have like gut issues in the past? Because
I do. I have ulcerative colitis.
Yeah. Okay.
I actually have that. And I have to work hard to keep that at bay. Sometimes it flares up and it's just like, whatever. A lot of it could be from stress or just poor diet or whatever. But keeping your gut health in check while you're on prep and doing these kind of crazy restricted diets, or even, I mean, when I was bulking, I was doing 4,500 calories a day. Like I struggle getting 3,000 in just because I just don't have the appetite, you know? So it's like 4,500 calories. How am I doing this? And it's like, you know, you're overloading your digestive system, and it's like, you got to make sure that you're keeping it, you know, healthy.
Just try to blend up as
probiotic
much as you can.
Yeah.
Just get it down.
3 liquid meals, 3 solid meals.
It sounds fun. Like when someone hears that, they're like, oh, that'd be great. 4,500 calories a day. But like, it's
not when it's chicken and broccoli.
It's
and
exhausting. Yeah.
high volume foods. It's like, you're like, oh, please.
All right. So let's shift gears to the show.
Yeah.
I remember watching the show years ago when you were on there, obviously having no idea who you were at the time. I didn't even live in this area.
Yeah.
But how did that come to be? How did that relationship
right place at the right time? You know, I was down in Atlantic City in 2010, working at a couple restaurants there. And at the time, the female sous chef on Hell's Kitchen, who was also kind of did a lot of stuff with Gordon. She was his corporate chef, Chef Andy Van Willigan. She's a good friend of mine to this day. They were filming Kitchen Nightmares in North Jersey. And they needed like some help in the back, you know, because they go and when they fix a restaurant, right? When Gordon goes in, he has a couple people that go in there and help him. So it's like we have to go in and help prep and train, and then we relaunch the restaurant, right? Mm-hmm. They needed some hands doing that. Andy called my boss because they used to work together and said, hey, do you want to come and help out? And he said, oh, I can't, but I have this kid, James. So I was in the right place at the right time. And he said, hey, do you want to go help out on Kitchen Nightmares with Gordon Ramsay? I said, fuck yeah, that's why not? What else? You know, so it was definitely like intimidating, you know, because I was only like 28, 29 at the time. And went up to North Jersey. It really just serendipitous, man. Mm-hmm. Like I'm just right place at the right time. And we were working on an Irish pub, and there was another guy that was in the culinary team named James. So they nicknamed me Jimmy Irish because I have a tattoo that says Irish, and whatever, I was probably like a tank top on, they saw the Irish. And it just came out that like, you know, Gordon, they wanted to use Jimmy Irish to, you know, help out on the show. And, you know, so I came, I helped, and that was it. I built I'm sorry, let me go back. So, you know, I had helped them a little bit, and then he needed help actually on screen. They wanted to like have me go in and help the restaurant with him as a consultant. So he called me up. You know, I went in, we had good, I guess he liked working with me, you know, because about a year later, after I finished up that season of on the road with them and on Hell's Kitchen, I got a phone call from a producer of I said Kitchen Nightmares. I got a phone call from a producer from Hell's Kitchen, and they said, you know, you're in the top running to be Gordon's on-camera sous chef. If you're interested, you know, we'd like to work with you on that. And would you be interested? And I'm like, well, let me fucking think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you know? Man, not interested.
Yeah. Let me check my calendar. Yeah. So, you know, my boss, now, by the way, like this is like, that was like a 2-year time span. You know, I went and did Kitchen Nightmares, helped for a little while, went back to Atlantic City. Now I'm an executive chef running like a really big restaurant in Atlantic City. I opened up several restaurants down there, not mine, but for a big company, Be Our Guest. And I went out to LA, and I was Gordon Ramsay's blue team sous chef, and the rest is kind of history.
And your role was basically to prep the chefs, right?
Yeah. So the way that show works is there's 2 kitchens. We build, there's a full restaurant built, cameras everywhere, just like this. Like it's a studio, but it's a restaurant with 2 kitchens. And there's a blue team and a red team, and it's, you know, boys and girls, blue sous chef, red sous chef. So we're one of 4 cast members on the show. So there's the maitre d', you know, Marino is the maitre d' now, obviously Chef Gordon, and then the 2 sous chefs. This year it was me and Chef Michelle. So the contestants come, and we have to train them on the menu, and we help them. You know, we're like the liaison between them and Chef. You know, he's a very intimidating guy. So if he comes in the kitchen, like, you know, we're like the buffer, you know, but we're really just kind of serve as like big brothers and big sisters, you know, just like a sous chef in any restaurant, right? You're like between the chef and the cooks. And effectively, even though there's some talented people that come on the show, they're still new to Hell's Kitchen, and it's intimidating. And we're there, you know, on camera. We're just helping during dinner service. We're helping Chef plate the food, and, you know, just like you would a regular dinner service. But then, you know, we're coaching these people, we're supporting them, we're keeping them going. You know, it's a hard, grueling competition. They're away from their family. They're living in weird conditions and community, like a communal sense. And so we have to help them but we set everything up. We write the menus, we do tastings with chef, and there's a lot that goes into it, to make a 1 hour show for once a week. One episode can take, it used to take 2 days. Now it's a day, but still it's a lot of work that goes into each episode. And we're very active in that process.
So, I mean, it's definitely a question I got to ask. Is there ever a time that you had like a confrontation with Chef Gordon? You were just like, dude, this dude hates me.
Yeah,
like,
of course. I mean, I have such admiration for him. I really do. He's just like, and I like to think that, he's a friend within reason, like I have his, I wish him happy birthday every year. And I can reach out to him here and there. I don't really pull that lever too much, but I have such respect for him, such massive respect for what he's built in his life. I was in culinary school when that show first started. So it was like, literally I graduated culinary school in 2025. Chef Gordon Ramsay blew up in America that same year. And it's like, I've just kind of followed his trajectory and I'm just blown away by it. So he's intense, his success is part of that. So you don't want to ever let him down. And, there's times where you do fucking something stupid and he lets you fucking know. And it's just like when dad gets mad at you, you're like, fuck, I can't believe I did that. He got on me one time this summer, but I did something unintended, but probably shouldn't have done it,
Yeah.
And I learned my lesson.
Yeah, I'm sure it would come quick, but
he made it very clear that I walked away knowing what was up. But then the next day, he found out my daughter was graduating high school and I was going to miss it because we were filming in Connecticut. Literally, so the next day he's like, hey, James, you're missing your daughter's graduation. He knows Kaylin, my oldest daughter. He's known her since she was little. And he's like, you can't miss her graduation. I'm like, Chef, what are you talking about? We're filming. What if I get you a helicopter? I'm like, you get me, like, Chef, come on. You don't have to do that. He's like, no, really. I was like, Chef, you don't have to do it. He was like, nope. He insisted. So he freed up my schedule for me to go home, not miss my daughter's high school graduation. I was gone for it was like a 12-hour turnaround. So I flew down on a helicopter and just picked up that morning, got back to the shoot. But that's the kind of guy he is, he's a good guy. He's just he's somebody to be around. But so, everybody says, is he really an asshole like that? Is he really? Oh, no, he's not. If you fuck up, he'll let you know. He's very intense, which is why he is who he is. You're very lucky if you're allowed to be kind of in his circle. So I don't ever take that for granted. And he's a really caring guy. And the thing that, I've always respected about him is how he's into health. He's into nutrition. He was
big like marathon runner,
huge.
Right?
Yeah, he does triathlon. He rides motorcycles. He rides bicycles all the time. That's like his thing. So he's big into health and he's big into family. And I think that's also influenced me and kind of my approach to life and my profession.
Yeah, because I've seen like his daughter's involved with a lot of the shows now. Like we love watching Master Chef Junior. It's like the most entertaining thing in the world. I remember those. I used to geek out on the old Kitchen Nightmare episodes. Yeah, like they were super they were great information like business wise because it wasn't what it is now, which is more like, hey, dude, there's a rat running across the floor. You got problems. Yeah. It was like he would go to and I'm not telling you anything new, but for people listening, he would go to legit Michelin star restaurants that were losing business, and it was a legit business critique. Like he was going in there and the common thing was these people would have these crazy menus. It was the same shit over and over, but he was going to legit. I think this was still over in Britain. There wasn't necessarily in the States, but those older episodes, he would go to legit restaurants that were multi-Michelin star restaurants that were no one was showing up anymore. Yeah, and I remember just watching those and man, this dude is
he knows his
crazy
shit.
smart.
He knows it. I mean, he's such a big brand now that people just kind of young kids today just think he's just some famous TV chef. He was a bad motherfucker back in the day in the late 90s when he was chasing Michelin stars, when he was opening up restaurants and, doing restaurants, all the stuff that comes with owning restaurants and leading people and managing money and all that stuff. It's he hadn't made it yet. Plus he's trying to do this TV thing. So he really those older episodes in those beginning days. And that's when he was just young and just he still has a fire in his eye, but I know what you mean, about the older episodes.
And that's what's crazy too, is I look at my schedule and I think I got a lot of stuff going on. And then I'm like, dude, I turn on the TV at any point and there's 4 different Gordon Ramsay shows on. It's crazy. Him traveling the world, going to different places. It's crazy. Cooking with people. And then these things are on. It's it's nuts.
It's crazy to see. I mean, he when we're filming, he's just got 25. I don't know when he sleeps. I actually asked something does he ever, how many hours, I have to know, how many hours does he sleep? Because I think that's a superhuman power. I think a lot of uber successful people don't need a lot of sleep. Like I'm talking like maybe 3 or 4 hours and they're fucking ready to roll.
And you would never tell. Like it seems,
Yeah, I don't know.
So aside from, cooking shirtless on TikTok, what's like one piece of advice that you feel like he gave you at some point during this whole journey that kind of stuck with you?
I think knowing your value, is very, chefs, we're very critical of ourselves because the world is, we put ourselves out there and, you do it for the good. You do it because you're like, like you want that immediate gratification. I think that's, we all chase that immediate thank you, appreciation, acknowledgement. And it's easy to like get down on yourself when, people attack you no matter what, no matter what good you do, no matter how well you treat your staff, no matter how hard you try to get investors their money, no matter how hard, you try to deliver a great product to a guest, things fall through the cracks and you can devalue yourself very quickly. And I think him, one of the things he taught me is like, really just know your value. Just know there's one of you, and knowing that, and that stuck with me.
Nice. So when will you find out if those are picked up moving forward?
Probably, right now we have season 23 still going. They went down to the final 4 last night, actually, that episode. And then I don't know really. I think they wait to see how things go, and then Fox says, "All right, we're signing on for another 2." Rumor has it that Chef wanted to do like I don't know, who knows? He'll probably do it till he's fucking 100 years old. but like suppose he wants to like 25 is a good number, but who knows? I don't know. That's purely speculation. Like I don't know, but I can't imagine it not. I mean, it's a hyper successful show. It was this last one was really a good run. Like it went really well. So I'm hoping within the next few months, maybe, nice. But who knows?
So, segueing from that, if, let's say if that gets picked up, obviously I would assume that you would do it.
Yeah.
But moving forward from that, what else is everything diving into the YouTube and the book right now?
For now, yeah. So I sold my restaurants to a local group. They have a few I sold 2 restaurants. I had the Bonnie, I rebranded it because I needed to free up some time. I just was doing way too many. My summers were 90-hour weeks and I just couldn't do it anymore. So we rebranded the Mainstay. I got a bunch of flack for that. But we ended up selling that lease, selling the equipment, selling out of it. Boop. And then we sold the Black Swan. I said, I'm selling one. I'm like, why don't I just fucking sell them both and just like open my mind up to like for the first time in over a decade, like feel like I can actually make a decision without being weighed down by something, Not that they weighed me down, but just like unload, make space, like what's going to happen. So I sold the Black Swan to a local restaurant group. They have some really good concepts. We're talking about how I could, help them and how they could help me. That's compelling to me to kind of go in and maybe do a consulting portion or, listen, I'm there's an opportunity for me to license my name. People want to attach my brand of hospitality and culinary to their establishment. Like, hey, we're bringing James Avery in. He's going to help us, tweak our menu. I really want to find ways, and at this stage of my life, at the end of the day, I'm a middle-aged man. I'm 44 years old. I'm still young, still got a lot of gas in the tank. Mm-hmm. Do I want to be the chef that just owns, one restaurant that I work out for the rest of my life? No. I don't. My mentors are guys like David Burke, guys I looked up to, Gordon Ramsay. They got multiple things going on. So I want to take some time to figure out how I can do more than one project and spread myself out a little bit and really focus on, yes, the media side possibly, the TV, and then as well as developing a little more on the YouTube and seeing what I can do there. If you really just treat it like a job versus like just grabbing your phone and dicking around, like really like, no, like I have a guy coming to the house next week. We're setting up, we're doing a full production. Like I'm investing heavily in it. It's, it's not cheap, but I'm going to give that a try for the next year. And who knows, man, maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm excited to see whatever way it goes. I was a big fan of both restaurants. Yeah. I really, I hope, are the clams going to be in the book?
Yeah, of course. I'm a seafood guy. Look, I'm not done opening restaurants. It's just like, do I want to open up restaurants with groups and then move on to the next thing? Like, I don't want to be the guy that opens a restaurant that has to be there for 10 years, 90 hours a week. I did that. Mm-hmm. There's other things I want to do.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming on. I'm excited to see where it goes from there.
Totally.
And then, so people can find your YouTube.
Yeah.
Where can people find you if they want to follow
easiest way is just to use Google. But Chef James Avery, that's all of my handles. Is my handle on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Chef James Avery. It's even my email if you want to email me and say hi. It's cool. But all right.
All right, perfect, man.
You got it, man. You got it.